Hello, so I'm Hannah Chaplin. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Receptive. First off, I'd like to congratulate Alex and the team on a brilliant event. It's been a great day so far. So when Alex asked me to talk on the traction stage about starting your business and growing it about a year ago, my initial reaction was actually no. Not no to speaking, but just the sheer volume of things that you have to say no to as a founder when you start and scale a business. Has anyone read Founders at Work? I know Dan has. You gave me this book. Thanks, Dan. Thanks. So Founders at Work was a real pivotal book for me. It's a great collection of stories from founders. Jessica Livingston, who's the founding partner of Y Combinator, actually did really in-depth interviews with a lot of technology companies that are absolutely huge today. Because I think when you're a founder, you often feel like you've got to follow the herd, if you like, and it can be really, really difficult to say no to things. But from the discussions I have with other founders and through books like Founders at Work, the thing that ties all them together is that actually everyone has a really unique path and a really unique journey that they go on. But the common theme throughout is that all of these founders have got really, really good at saying no to an awful lot of things. They have to be really focused. So I thought it'd be really fun for SaaStock to connect with a load of founders that are here today. So thank you so much to everyone who helped me out. So basically, went off on one and did a little kind of mini Founders at Work with the SaaS founders of today. And I kept it really simple. All I asked was, what have you said no to as you've grown and scaled your business as well? To kind of see if there was any similarities in the stories. And then there were three main themes that came up. The first was money. The second was saying no to people. There's probably no surprises so far. And the third was founders say no to reality a lot. And just bear with me on that one. So money, this is a real tricky subject, and founders say no to money an awful lot. It might be no to money from VCs, it might be no to money from customers or family, friends, whatever. Now VCs were a really, really hot topic. A lot of founders I talked with have said no to VC funding. And I think when you start your business out, VC funding can be seen as the only way to fund your company or the most attractive or desirable path for a founder to take. But actually talking to a lot of founders, a lot have actually rejected that way of funding their business, and this is in the kind of early stages. And I think that can be a really positive thing, particularly in the early days. I really like this quote from a founder. I think he knows who he is. I can see him at the back. I think the financial constraints that you can have can be really positive early on. I love this. Having too much funding too early can give companies a false sense of security. Nothing like fighting to keep the lights on to figure out how to charge real money for a product. And I love that quote because it's been very true from my own experience. I've been founding companies for 10 years now, and when you've got those financial constraints in the early days, it gives you an awful lot of, you have to be really creative and really resourceful. And those two traits are really positive traits as a founder to have as you go on and face other challenges as your business grows. And personally, not having funding early on gave me incredible focus and desensitized me to risk. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but just remember it can be a positive thing to say no to funding. And this isn't an anti-VC rant. I love VCs are an absolute brilliant part of the ecosystem we exist in, but it's just about taking a step back and saying no to the wrong money at the wrong time. Whether that's VC funding, whether it's customer money, it can be anything at all. Now, this was an interesting one. A lot of founders that I spoke with also said no to money from customers. And that actually sounds pretty insane. You might have no money, you're starting out, people are trying to give you money, and you're saying, no, I don't want your cash. So I've got three little quotes here, which are really interesting to me. It's about why founders have said no to customer money. No to 100K checks. That sounds mad. Until you learn that the reason they turned that money down and said no was because the direction that customer wanted to pull them in, it simply didn't align with their strategy. And strategy is really key here. From the very early days, we've always had a strategy, and it might only be 30 days long to start with, because you might not exist in 2 months' time, but that doesn't matter. When you've got your strategy in place, it gives you that foundation, that framework to like check your decisions against. So I think that was actually a really smart move. I like this one as well. Another founder, really painful, turning down thousands of pounds. This reason is great. It was because the resources they needed to develop custom features would pull all the resources in the wrong direction, and it would risk the ability to scale. And like just last week, a friend who had a very promising business nearly fell down this trap. They like started building an awful lot of features for just a handful of customers. So all of their resources got tied up in developing features that weren't for the masses. Essentially building a software agency instead of a scalable SaaS business. And finally, I really like this one. Say no because a prospect wanted you to go and get money from their house. That sounds okay to me. Until you realise they're a bit of a dodgy person, which leads really nicely onto kind of the next section about saying no to people. Quick summary on money then. So learnings I took away from my experience and other founders is like, if funding doesn't feel right, don't do it. Fund your business in a way that is like absolutely right for you, whatever way that may be. And finally, saying no to bad fit customers is a really positive but difficult thing to do. So just have the confidence to do that. It can be a real positive thing. People, this is the SaaS stock party tomorrow, I'm quite sure. So people was a really, really hot topic as well with founders, particularly when it came to building the team. So like hiring it's really hard. Everyone says it's hard because it just is. And sometimes someone who looks great on paper can actually be really bad for your culture or your business. So a lot of founders have said no to that. But optimism gets me a lot. I often think, oh, this person will fit in given time. We'll just give them a bit of time. They'll bed into the team. It'll be great. And it just never, ever happens. So, do watch out for that one. And that sentiment extends wider than just the people you employ too. When it comes to co-founders and investors, you've got to, get the right people on board. And very often the people closest to you or the people you've worked with before aren't the ones to help you kind of build and scale your company. And like this founder found, they've had to make some like quite personal decisions around that. I'm rubbish at parties, but a lot of people like parties, and a lot of founders have also said no to like conferences and talks and meetups. So I've got some quotes here about that. So when I started my first company nearly a decade ago, like a startup wasn't a word I knew, it was just you were starting a business. And the whole meetup culture didn't exist. And I think it can be quite hard these days to keep a tap on how many events you're going to. You can feel like you've got to attend them or that you're missing out if you don't. So the rule of thumb I go with these days is if going to something helps someone out or it aligns with your objectives, then you should absolutely do it. Otherwise, you don't have to go to everything to be successful, which is how you can be made to feel some of the time. So the big takeaways I took when it came to people was don't hire the wrong person. I'm of the mind now that an empty seat is actually much better than a seat with the wrong person in it. And user gut sounds all fluffy and weird, but I very often don't listen to my instinct, during the interview or within the first week. I'll often know and I'll persist. And I've very much had to learn that sometimes you have to say no to that. And yeah, you don't have to be a party animal to be successful was the other big takeaway. I love this GIF, it's ridiculous. Right, reality, I'll explain this one. This was the other big theme with founders. When you become a founder, you do have to say no to a more normal way of life a lot of the time. So some great quotes here. That top one gets me every time. Saying no to keeping a proper job when your wife's in tears, that sounds no fun at all. And turning down a lot of money from your employer, not to become an entrepreneur. These are all clearly very personal decisions that founders had to make. And actually, when it came to reality or kind of work-life balance, this was the only area where I found quite a lot of discrepancy. It was actually roughly half the founders I talked with said things like beer. It was a very, very important one. Beer was first. Beer, sleep, friends, they go out the window. And they just felt that that was like the nature of the beast, the nature of being a founder. And the other half of founders were like, no, actually, work-life balance is what makes me successful. Like, personally, I find balance is good. If I've burned out before, it's horrible. You're in this for a long time, many, many years. So I think having a good balance keeps you fresh and excited about what you're doing. And finally, when it comes to reality, a thing I picked up on with founders is that you do exist in this little bubble. So when you start a business and then begin to grow and scale it, you really are involved with like absolutely everything, like the product, the marketing, the sales, support, the hiring. So you get this little, like, I can only describe it as a bubble in the good sense of the word, of kind of all this information and this kind of different perspective that everyone else around you has. And sometimes you have to trust in that. And a lot of kind of less experienced founders find that difficult. I found that really hard at the beginning, like having the confidence to go against people that had more experience than you did in an area. So the take home for me here was that you can say no to what the industry is telling you should do, or your investors, and in fact you get a lot of respect for that. Some good examples from founders were not having headquarters in San Francisco, disagreeing with investors on certain things, and also ripping features out of your products. So there's a real broad range of things there. So when it comes to reality, I don't think one size fits all when it comes to work-life balance at all, and that extends out to your team as well, so that's a good thing to be aware of. And also, like, building a company, it really is a process of trial and error. So just trust yourself, trust your instinct and your judgment, and recognize that as a founder, you're in a very unique position. So those were the big takeaways for me, like things that founders have said no to. So you're probably wondering, okay, is there anything I can actually say yes to? And you're all intelligent people. It's very often that, the opposite of the no. Absolutely do say yes when the people and the timing is right. A lot of founders did go on to become funded in some way, often through the venture capital route, but they did it at a time that was right for them. Do say yes to having an amazing network of people. I really don't know what to do without the people around me. It could be a colleague, it might be an investor advisor, someone you can vent to kind of at the end of the day. Like, people really are everything. I think totally say yes to if you're going to socialize to help others, and if it's going to be a good fit for what you're doing. Trial and error, say yes to trial and error, right? Nobody knows what they're doing, and great founders really recognize that. A great founder doesn't have all the answers. They kind of have a strategy to get to where they need to be, and then they empower their teams by asking really great questions. And this is my favorite. As a founder, you're uncomfortable a lot of the time, and I've turned that around to kind of see it as a positive. So I think saying yes to uncomfortable things is really great. You just have to remember those times you're uncomfortable and out your usual zone are the times that you're growing the most, and you can take that learning experience and put it back into the business. So that's by no means a definitive list at all, but I hope it helps a little bit. So just two more takeaways for me. One was that saying no today isn't saying no to something forever. Sometimes you've just got to do what you need to do rather than what you could do. And again, personally, that was a hard lesson to learn. I remember my co-founder Dan sitting me down and saying, sometimes important things get dropped, and they absolutely do. And all of these kind of learnings took away, kind of had the same theme running through them. And that was just how great it is to be a founder. It's a really fun thing to do, but also that everyone's story is very, very different. And you see that through books like Founders at Work, and through the people you talk with. And one founder quote really summed it up for me. They said, the difficulty with saying no to almost everything is that it assumes you know what you're doing, but it's hard to know what to focus on. But when it's clear what to focus on, it's magic. So keep going, do focus, because I totally agree with that. So that's everything from me. Feel free to find me on Twitter or email me, grab me after this, whatever. Thank you.